Today I'm joined by Andrew Furlong, Managing Director of REO Digital, to see if we can define the true value of conversion rate optimization. REO Digital is a customer experience agency with an impressive client list, and Andrew has spent over 10 years demonstrating that the value of CRO can be defined, but can it be clearly measured? So Andrew, tell me a little about REO Digital and how does it differ from Redeye, because I'm a little confused.
Yeah, sure. So REO Digital is a conversion rate optimization agency, and we focus on helping businesses improve their customer experience, and we do that through providing user research to explore insights into why customer bases are behaving in certain ways, and then we'll use that alongside analytical data to come up with ideas and hypotheses around how we could improve the website essentially for our end customers. And so from there, we would put in place a program of optimization, which is, A/B testing, experimentation. There's lots of words that are sort of being thrown around these days. But ultimately, that's sort of, I suppose, a core part of the deliverable. And that program of optimization will run for, a period based on a particular business objective we're aiming to improve. So that could be, we could be looking at it quarterly. It could be something a little bit more short term, or alternatively, we're working on a sort of big business impact change over a program that might be over 12 months or longer. So alongside sort of that program optimization, we do support brands with design work as well, because ultimately, with optimization and testing, there is only so far you can go. So when we're looking at redesigning or reviewing a whole journey, it might be more beneficial to actually redesign that journey and then look to optimize it. So what we typically find is with a brand, we might start with optimization and then sort of expand our services into, broader, deeper customer research and then also design work. In terms of where that fits with Redeye, so Redeye used to own REO Digital essentially. And REO Digital was based in London and was operating much in the same way as I just described, but as a component part of Redeye. Now, Redeye is a marketing automation business, so they provide the sort of CRM marcoms function. So the idea behind the two businesses was Redeye, through its own technology, could drive customers through the CRM marketing automation practices. And then by having a specialist agency that was focusing on essentially converting that traffic, that would provide end customers with a sort of end-to-end solution, which is will help you maximize your customer base, whether that's increasing lifetime value, whether that's increasing conversions, by providing a technology solution to drive the traffic and then having experts who could make the most of that traffic essentially. It didn't really pan out the way we wanted, just because actually there were very different models. You had one which was a technology business, the other an agency. Culturally, there wasn't the fit maybe that we wanted. And so I'd been at Redeye for some time. And so it was spun out and became a separate business, and that's where we are today.
So in essence, you're completely separate. You don't get all your business through Redeye. You're independent. You can go off and get your own clients, etc.
Yeah, so absolutely. So completely separate. So just over 2.5 years ago now, it was set up as a separate business, and now it's completely separate. So it was part of a group structure within the Redeye. So it was a subsidiary of Redeye, and now it's a completely separate company. So no affiliation whatsoever, other than the sort of history, I guess, of Redeye. Still on great terms with them. Obviously worked with the people there for quite some time. So we do share some clients, and if we needed to recommend a marketing automation tool, we would obviously recommend them, and we'd hope they would obviously recommend us if they needed any of their customers needed optimization. So
let's hope so. Yes.
There's great. Obviously you work with people for. I've been there for 8-9 years. So if you work in an organization for that long, you do obviously build some friendships, but there's also, clearly we were doing something right because we were growing quite well. So it's just been easier, I guess, having now taken it out as a separate business, to focus on the core of what we were, rather than, if you talk about it from a marketing exercise, if we went to an event, how do we balance off marketing automation versus conversion? Where do the leads go? How do we prioritize it? So all of those sorts of things came into it, whereas now it's much easier.
Now, you've used a couple of terms already in this conversation with regard to A/B testing, CRO, optimization. I think to make it clear for everybody, we'll use one term if we can for the rest of this discussion, which is CRO, conversion rate optimization, which accumulates a whole lot of testing and personalization and different aspects of being able to modify UX, etc., etc. But how would you define CRO? More importantly, how would you define the value of CRO?
I think at its absolute core, CRO, and I sort of remember back maybe 10 years ago when it really started to come about as a discipline, was, and I still think this is true today, fundamentally the value lies in influencing the conversion rates of a website, which ultimately means you're going to get more from your acquisition spend, but also then, it's also about the lifetime value of a customer. So I think, conversion rate optimization in its purest sense is about maximizing acquisition spend, driving a greater return from that, and then also focusing on your loyal customer segments and driving greater lifetime value out of them by providing them with an experience that's slightly different to your new customers. Yeah, fundamentally, that's what it is in terms of the sort of, from my perspective anyway. The value then is sort of the softer values, which is where I think most of the focus is actually about then getting to understand your customers, pushing your website to a point where actually then you have the business case to go into a redesign or to re-platform or to highlight, sort of more, not cynical, but the tactics that are then used to show that, look, our website isn't working if we had this technology, or if we re-platform, or if we re-architectured, or if we redesigned it, this is what we could be doing. And all of those elements come into it as well. But yeah, it's core maximizing acquisition spend and driving lifetime value for customers.
With that kind of mantra, maximizing acquisition spend, which I think is a very solid way of being able to pin CRO to a deliverable, is it possible to measure it?
It's a great question. I mean, it is. I think, it certainly is possible, but it's not easy. And I think that's been a real drawback for CRO as a whole, sort of having been in the industry now for the best part of 10 years. I don't think it's quite lived up to its potential. And I think some of that stems from the fact that it isn't a simple exercise. So if you talk, we're an agency, so we would obviously back ourselves in terms of the value, both monetary, but also the expertise and lots of other softer things that we can bring to the table. But fundamentally, we would back ourselves to drive a return on investment for our customers. So we've got an invested interest in making sure that we can quantify that. So it's not as easy as you might think. The way that people could typically go about it is essentially you would run, so once you come up with your conversion rate optimization strategy, and that culminates in a test where you've got variant A versus variant B, you would effectively run that test, and then from there you're able to extract the uplift in revenue from that test. That again sounds fairly simple, but in essence it isn't, because depending on what you're testing, you need to first of all understand the influence that would have had on the conversion, and then understand what the average revenue is from the sessions that you'd be running. You then need to extract the cost of running that test. You then need to sort of annualize that and look at also ways of excluding seasonality, other marketing activities that may be happening. Ultimately we're working off statistical models. So there are going to be anomalies. So there has to be a high level of statistical significance. That said, there's always a degree of randomization. If you're doing enough testing, there's going to be outliers that come in there. So just talking this through with you already, you can see it's not a simple, nice equation that you can put into a set of management accounts and run through. So to answer your question directly, yes, it is possible to quantify it, but it's not a simple thing to do. And it's something that I don't think the industry has really figured out.
Because I think where I'm coming from is when you talk about acquisition spend, and let's just say PPC for that matter, it's very measurable. Yeah. You spend X, you get X times whatever it might be over a period of time. And that to the board or the senior management of the company is a kind of a nice thing to say, yeah, I spend that, I get that, I can see the results. Yes, it's working well. Yet the calculation of being able to deliver return on investment on CRO, as you've kind of described, is a little woolly, to say the least. You're listening to the shortened version of this podcast. To listen to the full version, visit your favourite podcast player and search for